Thank you once again, guys, for coming to our Friday webinar. Thank you for joining us once again in this spooky webinar series that we have put together for you guys. Like always, we like to make sure that you guys leave these webinars at home with lots of knowledge and, of course, lots of creativity, food for thought. So before we begin to show you a few ideas as to what you can find in your closet to create your very own costume for Halloween, let's first go ahead and talk about careers. Like I said, let's first talk about costume designing. Something that many people think about, but sometimes are a little intimidated about because they don't know where to start or what they do exactly. So costume designing is pretty much the role of the costume designer is to create the characters' outfits for films, TV shows, plays, festivals, and so much more. So costume designers are not only the professionals that take care of the costumes, but they also make sure that they create all of the props for the movie or whatever Broadway play they're actually creating these props for. Now, costume design, similar to fashion design. If any of you out there are interested in fashion design, maybe you might want to consider looking into costume design. So each costume design job begins with the designer fully reading the script. So they must know exactly the plot, the characters, how the character feels, what the character wears, what time period, or the plot of the story. They are responsible for all the fittings and the dress rehearsals as well. So here you see a few illustrations. These are done by Julie Tamer. She is the costume designer for The Lion King. Now, if any of you are familiar with this, please let us know in the chat if you've gotten to see The Lion King. As you could see here, the costume designer took the time to illustrate. Let's take, for example, Mufasa. Here you see the king, right? The animal kingdom. And here you see the mask that he's wearing at the top. It's a huge sun. So this is indicating that this character is very, very important. Also, the costume designer must know details like, for example, The Lion King takes place in Africa, right? So we know that Africa has these rich, earthy colors like the yellows and the oranges and the deep reds and very earthy brown colors. So this is what the costume designer really focused on. And look at all these wonderful patterns of animal patterns, indigenous patterns. They're so beautiful. I love this collection here. Now, when it comes to becoming a costume designer, you must learn how to not only illustrate and draw and be able to sew, but you must be really good at doing research. You must research clothing. This comes with time, of course, with learning history of clothing, anything from 17th, 18th century, and there's so much history that you could get lost in it. As a matter of fact, right now, I'm actually reading a lot of books about that. So here, they also make sure that the props, like for example, you see the cane right here, that's a prop that they had to make sure that they created. They must have not only the skill for designing and illustrating, but also, like I said, must have a lot of knowledge of history. I wanted to talk about these two famous costume designers. One of my two very, very favorite ones, Ruth E. Carter. She was a costume designer for Malcolm X, for Spike Lee's Malcolm X, Amistad, which is from Steven Spielberg, and Black Panther, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, right? So she was the costume designer that got to design all of these wonderful costumes that you see in the movies. Now, Edith Head is another costume designer. She's very famous, but if you're a little young, you might have not have heard of her. If you're into this sort of thing, you might have known of her. This lady pretty much worked with many artists like Audrey Hepburn. She produced the costumes for several hundreds of films. It's unknown how many she really did, but she was nominated 35 times and won um, 35 times for the Academy Awards, and she won 8 of them in a row. So look at these costumes, like this blue dress over here in the bottom. It's beautiful. I believe this is To Catch a Thief, the movie. So if any of you are interested, you could look into Roman Holiday, All About Eve, and To Catch a Thief are 3 top movies. And last but not least, it is connected obviously to costume, to talk a little bit about the history of Halloween. So the origins are somewhat unknown, but what they do know is that the roots date back to 2,000 years. So they come from age old European traditions from the Celtic festival. And this festival marks the end of summertime. So pretty much one of the stories is that the pagan people used to wear these costumes and light bonfires just to chase out ghosts. The other story was that they wore animal skin and heads to disguise their human form and to be able to communicate. They believed they could communicate with the spirit world by using these costumes, right? And some of them would ask for food. Later on, in the 15th century, this is when the kids become more of a door to door holiday where they used to sing and recite poems and they ask for cakes, fruits, and money. This is kind of similar to Halloween, but it was still not called Halloween. Now, let's continue moving forward to the mid 1800s. Halloween has made its way into America due to the rise of English and Irish immigrants, and they brought back those customs with them. So this is a picture of the pagan festival. It looks super fun. It looks very interesting. But now that I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Nicole, and she is going to help us share some of the ideas and resources on how you can create your very own closet costume.
So what we are going to do is take what very talented people have already done and create our own costumes. And specifically, we're going to create closet costumes that come directly out of our closets. We're going to make this really easy on ourselves. So, there are 2 ways to start a closet costume. One, you do a closet search where you go into your closet, or number two, you do a character search where you already have a character in mind and then you search for pieces that will create the look of that character. So we're going to start with a closet search. So it sounds really easy. Your first step is to go to your closet. You're going to look through your articles of clothing and find something that gives you some kind of inspiration. And then once you have an article of clothing, say a shirt or a pair of shoes that reminds you of a character, you are going to find a character. So here's an example of an article of clothing that many people might already find in a closet in their house. A flannel shirt or a plaid shirt. There are so many costumes you can make with a plaid shirt. And most people already have an article of clothing like this somewhere in their house. So from this one shirt, you can make a lot of generic, just general costumes. And here are some examples. If you have overalls and a floppy hat, you could be a scarecrow. If you've got black jeans and big boots, you could be a punk rocker. If you've got a cute baseball cap and fun shoes, you could be a hip hop artist. Maybe you happen to have a 10-gallon hat and a giant belt buckle, and you could be a country singer or a barrel racer or some kind of country enthusiast. I don't know. There are a lot of options with a plaid shirt, and that's just some ideas. So, say you go into your closet and you have a lot of one color clothing. Black clothing is really great for Halloween. A lot of people will just put on an outfit of all black clothes and put on a mask, and that's their entire costume. Um, so, it's a really, really versatile color. So here are some ideas of this ninja. He's wearing Under Armour shirt and an Under Armour like athletic pants, and he literally just pulled that out of his closet. Like he looks like he's going to work out, except that you can tell he's a ninja because he's got the head wrap thing and the little sword thing. But I mean, you know that was not something he bought for the intention of wearing it as a costume. The witch, you can wear any combination of black clothing and put on a witch's hat, and people will know that you are a witch. So this one looks great. She probably has a wig too, and it looks really cool. And carrying the broom is a nice added effect. But anything with a witch's hat, and you are in costume. Our robbers here have accessorized so that we can tell that they're robbers. If they didn't have their loot bag and their masks, they would look very, very normal. So wearing the masks and the gloves and getting a little canvas bag that they probably painted their money symbol on really makes this costume. Without it, you wouldn't think they were in costume at all. And then our last example there, she's one of my favorites. She looks like she just went into her closet, pulled out a cute outfit that just happens to all be in black, and then she didn't buy mouse ears, she didn't make mouse ears, she put her hair up on the top of her head to look like mouse ears and painted a little mouse face. And it looks adorable. It looks like a costume, and you know she spent no money on that, and it looks great. So say, Harrow, you go into your closet, you find a black trench coat. You see that black trench coat and you think Nick Fury. I want to be Nick Fury for Halloween because this black trench coat would look great as Nick Fury, which it would. But what else do you need to be Nick Fury other than a black trench coat? Well, what you can do is go look up costume guides. This costume guide came from shecause.com, which means she cosplays. So cosplay is all about people dressing up like their favorite characters from their favorite movies or shows or video games or anything at all. So shecause.com has a lot of these costume guides for many, many different characters. So this costume guide, as you can see, has just a lot of black clothing that if you put them together, right, you look like Nick Fury and it looks good. And really, if you have any combination of clothing and that iconic eye patch, you're going to look like Nick Fury and it's going to be a good costume. Um, if you go into your closet and you happen to find this yellow shirt and you think that yellow shirt could be Charlie Brown, but what do I need? Look for a costume guide. This costume guide came from costumewall.com, also a really good one. And on this costume guide, there are a lot of accessories that you don't actually need to pass off as Charlie Brown. So, really, if you have that yellow shirt with that zigzag design on it, you are going to look like Charlie Brown because no one else has that shirt. You can make a yellow shirt work for this costume by drawing a zigzag in Sharpie. You can tape paper onto your shirt. You can get iron on vinyl and iron it on. There are a lot of different ways to do this. So for this costume guide, they suggest that you have the hat and the baseball and a Snoopy doll, and you could do all of that. And if you happen to have these things, that would just make your costume that much better, but you really don't have to have them. Um, really, you just need to pick out a few key things that will really make the costume recognizable. And in this case, it's Charlie Brown's shirt. Okay, so I mentioned a couple of places where you can find costume guides, and here are a list of a few more. If you're interested, GoGo Cosplay is a good one. Costumet is cool because they have a generator where you can check off some boxes to get some ideas of costumes that would work for you. So, for example, I am a tall woman. So if I check off the box tall and woman, it will give me a lot of ideas for characters that are also tall women and that would fit my look. Costume realm is a good one too, and I already mentioned She Cause and Costume Wall. We have a YouTube playlist on our YouTube channel, YOUmake Miami. That is our YouTube channel, and our playlist has a list of videos in it where YouTubers show off their costumes straight out of their closets. And so that was really helpful for me in just seeing what people are doing. You can get really great ideas just looking for hashtags on Instagram. I hashtagged, I think it was just closet costumes, and some ideas came up and people were posting their own pictures. Pinterest is also really helpful for finding pictures of costumes that people have made, DIY, last minute costumes. I think that was another hashtag, last minute costumes, that was really helpful. Um, so I wanted to mention also Disney Bound. Disney bounding is not exactly costumes, but it's close. It's along the same lines. It's in the same vein. So here is an example of Disney bounding. So this character is named Mary Sanderson from the movie Hocus Pocus. And next to Mary, next to the character, is a collection of clothing and accessories that is not an exact match to Mary Sanderson, but hints at the character of Mary Sanderson. It is not a literal interpretation of the costume. It's just like it's an homage to the character where you're dressing up in the essence of the character without being the character. And the reason that this started is because when you go to Disney, you're not allowed to dress up in costume, but a lot of people are really big fans of the characters that Disney puts out there, of Disney characters, and they want to dress up. So they start Disney bounding, where they dress in the essence of the character, but not in an exact interpretation of their costume. So they are dressing up, but they're not dressing up. And people do this all year long. You don't have to do this on Halloween, but if you wanted to, you could do it on Halloween. So here's another example, two more examples of characters that would make really great Halloween outfits because they're kind of creepy characters and they're not, again, they're not literal interpretations of the character. They are just channeling the essence of that character through regular clothing that you might already have, except I don't know anyone who's going to have that little coffin purse, which is cool, but I don't know why you would have that. If you do, that's awesome. I would use it because it would make a great Disney bounding costume. So I just wanted to mention that, even though it's not strictly a costuming thing, it's just a fun way to dress up thing. Okay, so the second way to make a closet costume is to do a character search. So what you need to do is choose a character. I'm going to recommend that you choose a character that wears normal-ish clothing because you want to be able to find it in your house. So once you choose a character, find a costume guide because those costume guides are really, really helpful. And then once you have a costume guide, you can assemble your costume. So here are examples of characters who are wearing normal-ish clothing. The Pokemon trainer, Ash Ketchum, he would be a regular person if he wasn't carrying a Pokeball. He looks so normal in his clothing. You could wear basically anything, and as long as you have that cap, a backpack, and you're holding a Pokeball, you're gonna look like a Pokemon trainer. This Fortnite skin, she also is wearing really, really normal clothing, except that she's got buckles and straps and I don't know, bandana around her arm. And if you have a bunch of strange accessories like that, you're gonna look like you're about to go out and do battle. Bob's Burgers, they are the most normal looking cartoon characters ever. So this is a really great group costume because by yourself, you just look very, very normal. But when you're all together as a group, people like, oh, okay, I see that you all go together. That makes sense now. Except for the little bunny ears girl whose name I forgot. If you're wearing a green dress and pink bunny ears, that's iconic and people are going to know exactly who you are. Our little duck over here, Launchpad McQuack, he's wearing really normal clothing. And if you have that brown jacket, those brown boots, and khaki pants, you're going to look pretty normal as well. The way to really make that into a costume is maybe if you had a duck bill, that would be a dead giveaway that you're not yourself, you're in costume. Also, those aviator goggles and the cap with the yellow scarf. I mean, the accessories are really what's going to make your closet costume. So, so here are some costume guides for characters that are wearing pretty normal clothing. Mario, if you have overalls, that red shirt, and work boots, you are practically there already. So this costume guide suggests the big yellow buttons and the gloves, which would really push that costume over the edge, but really, you don't need them. It's not going to make or break the costume. What will make or break the costume is the mustache and the hat. That hat, it doesn't have to be exact. If you have a red baseball cap, you can just tape a Mario logo to the front of it, but you're gonna need a hat of some sort. Red specifically would be best. And you can make that little mustache out of paper, out of foam, out of whatever it is you have around your house, and you have a costume. If you decide you really need those gloves, because they do look more like Mario if you have the gloves, we will actually talk about accessories in just a second. So over here, we have our survival specialist from Fortnite. It's a Fortnite skin. And she also is wearing very, very normal clothing. So I would bet that most women, anyway, are going to have most of these articles of clothing in their closet already. Maybe not the fanny pack or the leg brace, arm brace, whatever it is that's pictured there, but you're going to have something like most of these articles of clothing. Say there's something here that you really want, like that tank top, that skull tank top. Most people are going to have a black tank top, but they probably don't have the black tank top with the skull on it, but you really want it for this costume. There are a couple ways to go about getting it. You could go to a thrift store. Thrift stores are great for costumes because they're inexpensive and you don't worry about ruining the clothes. So, say you find a skull t shirt. You found a big old t shirt that's got a skull on it. You can cut that up and use it for your costume. And it's not going to break the bank, and you're not going to be worried about ruining it because you got it at a thrift store. Um, if you want to accessorize, there are really great places to go for accessories. Party stores are great. Even Target or Walmart or any of those, even your local grocery store is going to have a holiday aisle. And sometimes you get really lucky and find random accessories in that holiday aisle. Oriental Trading Company is really great for finding those really, really cheap accessories that are definitely going to fall apart after one or two uses, but that's okay if that's all you need it for. And then you could always make them. So going back to this, if you want that skull tank top so badly you can't find anything, you could always take a plain black tank top and use fabric paint. You could again use iron on vinyl and iron it on there and make a skull tank top. There are lots of different ways to make things. And here are some books that we carry in our library system. Um, and all of these have ideas for making your own costumes. So our first one, Illegally Easy Halloween Costumes for Kids. They have stuff you can sew, they have no sew, last minute ideas, all sorts of great stuff you can make. The Maker Comics Create a Costume is really cool because it's a graphic novel, but it's actually giving practical advice on how to make your own costumes. So that's a fun one you might want to check out. And then Glue and Go Costumes it's specifically for kids, but you could always scale this up to make it for anyone. And it's, glue and go, so nice and easy.
So thank you for that, Nicole. And Nicole touched up a little bit on cosplay very briefly, but I'm going to be taking a deeper dive. But this is Monsters in Your Closet, and we're going to dive into the cosplay edition. So, going off of what Nicole was just talking about, of pulling stuff out of your closet, I'm going to be showing different examples of costumes you can throw together with stuff in your closet and pairing it with accessories that you might maybe craft by yourself or find as well. um, Doing different techniques of thrifting, like maybe gloves or accessories to do like maybe makeup and effects, and then also finding ways to be thrifty about maybe props for the costume as well. So in this picture, I've done a little side by side so you can see the character that I'm dressed as. The first one is Little Mac from Super Smash Brothers. The second one is Skull Grunt from Pokemon Sun and Moon. And the third one is Shizuo. He's from an anime called Durarara. And by looking at these outfits, they're all really, really simple. Like Little Mac just literally wears a tank top, shorts, and boxing gloves. But what really makes the outfit is the boxing gloves. That accessory is what really resembles the character, because without the green boxing gloves, I would just look like I'm on my way to the gym. I wouldn't really look like a character. So that's one way of throwing something together really simply. And then for the second costume for the skull grunt, I actually have some pieces of it here with me to show you guys. But the little wristbands that he's wearing, I have one on right now. And this is literally made from a sock. Like I took a sock and I just cut it off so I can stick my hand through it. And then I added white elastics to the edges. So that's why it's stretchy and they're really easy to put on and take off. So those were the wristbands. His his like bandana I just made from like a scrap piece of fabric. This cosplay is actually perfect to wear nowadays because you already have a mask to cover your face. But this is made from a bandana, and I just added the white fabric and stitched it on the little design on there. And then the little skull necklace that he wears, I have it here as well. This is made out of craft foam. So if I turn it to the side, you'll see there's two different thicknesses of craft foam. You can find these in most craft shops and they come in sheets and they're really, really cheap. They're like $1 and some change per sheet. And you can use craft foam for a lot of stuff. It's very versatile, which I'm going to talk about in just a bit. But here I just took a black piece of craft foam, cut a circle to get like the base, and then in a thinner craft foam, I cut out the skull design and I spray painted it silver so it'd be shiny metallic, and I just glued it on top of the black base and just sandwiched them like that. And then I just found a chain to put it on. So that's for the skull grunt. And then the last one, I didn't make anything for the last one. I literally just got a button-up shirt, a bow tie, a vest, and I had to thrift the glasses because this character is specifically known for his blue sunglasses. So when you see the bartender outfit with the blue glasses, you know that it's Shizuo, like it's signature to this character. So these are some easy ways that you can throw stuff together from your closet, but then maybe add a little accessory in it to really make the character recognizable. One of the characters that Nicole showed was the cast of Bob's Burgers, and the girl with the bunny ears, Louise, like that bunny ear hat is specific to her. So again, it could be something really simple, but that one accessory could really make that character stand out. Next, we have outfits that are thrifted, but you make alterations to them. So in the pictures I showed you in the previous one, I didn't really have to do anything to the clothing. I just added accessories to make it look like the character. But in this case, it was a combination of thrifting something and making changes to the outfit that I found by adding some extra stuff to it. So this was originally a blue button-up shirt. I ripped all the buttons off and then I folded the edges and I added a zipper in it to make it zip up. And then the collar, you know how the collar would look like this because it was a button-up shirt, and I just basically like popped the collar up and then added some interfacing in it to make it stand up so that it would have that pop-up type of collar. And then on the collar, I added those studs because it was part of the design. I found the studs in a craft shop. And then his like shoulder straps and his belts, that was made. I made that drawing a little pattern to cut it out of. And that was made of like a fake leather material that I found in my scrap pile. So I made the accessories and I added those little embellishments and the zipper and those details to it, but I didn't completely make it from scratch. So if you know a little bit of sewing, but not enough to like draft a pattern or sew something entirely from scratch, you can take something like a base to already work off of and just kind of add stuff to it. So that's how I did this costume. And then next, I mentioned earlier I was going to talk a little bit about like makeup and stuff. Um, a good trick that a lot of cosplayers like to use is a thing called arm socks, which is basically taking either a pantyhose or a pair of leggings. You put it over your hand and then you sew around your fingers and turn it into a glove basically. So you make a seam around your fingers, you cut the excess fabric in between, so then when you put it on, it looks like your whole arm is that color. So as you can see here, there's a character with gray skin, there's a character with green skin. So rather than having to paint my entire arm in gray or green, I use the arm socks as a little cheat so I don't have to paint my whole arm. That can be really tedious because the paint can rub off on your clothes. You might stain other things when you touch them if there's paint on your fingers. So this is like a little life hack that you can do to cheat your way out of not having to paint your arms or your fingers. And another extra thing that I did in the first picture, it's just like the pantyhose technique, but in the second and third picture, I actually took a pair of gloves, opera gloves, which go all the way up to here, and I safety pinned them to the inside of the shirt so they wouldn't slide down to make sure they'd stay up, and I glued acrylic nails to the gloves to make them more believable, I guess. So they would actually look like more realistic hands from a distance. And I even painted the nails themselves. So you can see in the middle picture where I'm green, the nails are also painted green. And in the last photo, I painted them yellow. So that was just like another extra little touch that I added to make the hands more believable. And then in the last picture, you'll see that I'm wearing wings in that costume. Those wings were made of this material called cellophane. It's kind of like a see-through candy wrapper type of paper. You can buy those in like party stores or craft stores. They're usually used for like gift wrap stuff. And I basically took a wire, like I took some clothes hangers, the wire ones, and I repurposed the wire to bend it to the shape of the outline of the wing. And then I took two layers of cellophane and I sandwiched it between the wire. And I did that little design in the middle. So again, they're super lightweight because it's literally wire and cellophane. It weighs nothing. And I just added like a little harness and made it like a backpack kind of deal so I can wear that on my back. And it was really cheap to make, really lightweight and super simple. And the last thing I'll say about that costume is you'll notice I'm wearing horns in both that one and the first one. But I wanted it to look more natural, like the horns are actually coming out of the head. So what I did was I put them on a headband with magnets underneath the wig so that you wouldn't see the headband on the outside to make it, again, look more natural, like it's coming out of my skull. So it was really cool. I just put a magnet and between the wefts of the wig, it just like bloop, like clicks into place and they stay on my head, which is pretty cool. And then next we have continuing my conversation about the craft foam props. Sometimes your characters have these crazy elaborate props and you can also make them out of really cheap materials. So I don't even know what to call this thing. It's like, I don't know, it's like a mecha on a stick or something that this character uses. It turns into like a robot, but he carries it around on a stick, and I made it out of yoga mats. I mentioned earlier when I was showing you guys the little skull necklace that this craft foam comes in different thicknesses. So this yoga mat, you can probably kind of tell in the picture, was pretty thick. It was maybe like yay big. And it was really hard to get it to bend to certain shapes because of how thick it was. So what I did to create this prop is that I looked at the picture, I started to break it down to basic geometric shapes, and I basically made like a pattern for it and I carved out the pieces from the yoga mats to get the pieces individually. And then in the second picture, you see there's a little hot glue gun there. I hot glued everything together. Sometimes the heat from a hot glue gun can help you mold the craft foam because heat will make it bend to the shape that you want it to. So it's a good way to manipulate the shape and the material. So I cut out all the pieces, I assembled it with the hot glue gun, and then I did the final paint job so you can see the finished product with me in the full costume all the way on the right. Another thing that you can do with craft foam aside from props is that you can make accessories out of craft foam as well. Out of all the cosplays that I've done, because I've done this for a really long time, Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon is probably the most elaborate costume I've ever made. And you can see in the picture I'm wearing the helmet and I did like the wings and stuff. But that helmet is made entirely out of craft foam. Like it's just craft foam, a little bit of fabric, and some clay. And I actually have it right here with me to show you guys in person. One of the spikes chipped, unfortunately, so it's a little bit damaged with some wear and tear. But on the outside, this thing looks pretty cool, right? It looks like it's made of leather. Like this looks like it came straight out of a Viking's house. It's really cool. But then when I show you the inside, it's kind of like a circus tent in here. It's really crazy. You can see that it's craft foam on the inside, and I didn't even care to like match the colors. It's all mismatching. You can see all the stitches. Those little dots are nails. I actually had to put nails through the helmet to keep the spikes in place, and you can see all of that work in there. And I think there's some duct tape in there too, because I duct taped a wire to it to get it to bend and become round so it would bend to the shape of my face. I can't put it on now because I have glasses and my hair's too big to fit in this helmet, but I just wanted to show you guys up close. What I did with this is you can see that the helmet is in sections, like there's these little pieces that overlap with each other. There's the eyepiece, there's this mouthpiece, there's this little flap that goes up over it. So just like the prop that I showed you previously, this was also patterned and all the pieces were cut out of foam and they were stitched together. You can see one of the stitches right here. I stitched those two together. And to give off the illusion of this leather look, I just took a piece of craft foam and I put fabric over it and sewed around the edges. So you can kind of see a little bit of that here. You can see the seams on the edges. See how it kind of just like wraps around, it folds over like this, and then there's a seam to keep it wrapped up. And then I spray painted it as a final finish to give it this like worn look. But this thing is also really lightweight. It doesn't weigh anything. It's super light, really easy to wear, and it was just made out of craft foam, which is crazy. Another accessory I have to show you guys is he has this like dragon sword thing that he's holding in that close-up image. I have that right here as well. This was made out of crisscrossing leather. I took a bunch of leather strips and just wove them together to make this pattern. And then I used a PVC pipe for the base. You can find pipes like this really cheap at a hardware store for a couple cents to like $1 and some change per tube. They're super, super cheap. But I got a PVC pipe, wrapped it in this leather, and then I sculpted these little dragon heads out of Crayola Model Magic. It's a very lightweight air drying clay. Again, it does not weigh anything, and I sculpted it around the pipe and like glued it on and then spray painted it. And another thing about painting parts of your costume or if you're doing armor is there's this really cool effect that you can achieve if you have like a metallic finish. If you take some black paint on like a napkin or a tissue and just like smudge it, it kind of gives it this like warm kind of look. It kind of ages it a little bit. So it looks like aged metal, which is really, really cool. So that's pretty much it that I have to show you guys. I hope you enjoyed my little show and tell. I have a lot of costumes in my closet. I've been doing this for like 10 years as a hobby. So I'm really, really big on cosplay. If you have any other questions about cosplay related stuff, like please let us know in the chat. And if you recognized any of the characters that I was dressed up as, also let us know.
Looks like they were recognizing everything you were
Yeah,
describing,
I had a feeling she was gonna
especially
need
Autumn.
most of these.
That's really cool. I want to. How did you do that little sword thing? How did you do
This
the
thing?
ends? Yeah, how did you do the ends with the dragon? Maybe I missed that
So
part.
It's hard to tell because I sculpted something over it, but it's a PVC pipe, and here you can see it has one of those like twisty like caps
Yeah.
on
Oh
each
yeah.
side. It's a cap, and I just sculpted the dragon head on top of the cap.
Out of what?
Crayola Model Magic. It's super, super lightweight. Model Magic usually comes in a bunch of different colors, but I tend to buy it in white, so it's just easier to paint over.
Hmm.
But I spray painted it with this silver metallic paint and then did this like worn kind of like finish on it.
That's really great.
But it's super light, doesn't weigh anything, too.
I wish I was going Halloween trick or treating now. I would go make a costume like that.
Yes.
Brilliant.
The one time of the year cosplayers can walk in the street and not be dressed up.
I think
Jaden, I do
nowadays,
have a
anytime.
question. Oh. I was wondering, Jaden, how long it takes you to make one of these costumes?
It depends on the complexity. I know the How to Train Your Dragon costume took me like 6 months. That one took a long time because it was really elaborate. Aside from the costume itself, I had a lot of accessories and props to make for it as well. I actually have it, at least half of it, behind me.
Oh
It's
yeah.
if you guys want to see it up close, I can bring it closer.
Sure.
Oh, that.
And what is that thing that looks like a bird feathers or something next to it?
Oh, that.
Wow. Check
This
that out.
thing?
Yeah. Oh my god, that's awesome.
This is like it's armor, but it's a flight outfit, and he has this fin. I made it detachable so it'd be easier to transport or like walk around in it, but this fin gets attached to the back.
Mm,
There's like a little
Nice.
slot that I slide it into, and it
wow.
attaches.
Very, very creative.
But yeah, this was made out of like pleather. I think it's supposed to be used for like upholstering like furniture or something. It's not meant to be used for clothes, but I made it out of that. It's on the mannequin, so you can see like all the different like details on it. It
Very
has this like
nice.
shoulder armor with little elastics to like slip the arms through. And I also sculpted that little dragon thing out of clay.
Beautiful.
This is also craft foam. Like the
Wow.
armor was craft foam as well. I make all my armor out of craft foam. It's really cheap and lightweight, easy to use.
Fantastic. Well, you guys hit it out of the park as far as giving ideas for costumes this year. No one has any excuses.
Yes.
Yes.
Briefly before we go, I just wanted to showcase like one of the books going back to costume design. Obviously, costume designers obviously can also go into cosplay as well. Cosplay actually is not just about looking at cartoons, but also knowing some history because there is some history in some of the cartoons or they're inspired by history. But this is one of the books. It's actually a textbook. This book is talking about the historical fashion in detail from 17th and 18th centuries. Um, Anyways, this is one of the books that I'm reading right now. It is a textbook, so it's not at the libraries, but it's fun to read if you have time or if you're interested in this sort of design.
Well, wonderful. I think we're going to wrap up for today, but this has been very cool. I'm inspired. I think, I don't really usually do Halloween, but now I'm starting to think maybe I need to go get some interfacing and some Crayola. What did you call it, Jaden? Crayola.
Model magic.
Crayola model magic and see what I can create. Maybe. I don't know. I might be too old for that. I'm not sure.
Never too old. Never too old.
All right. Well, we thank you all for coming.
Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful week.
Have a
We'll see you next
Thanks,
time.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.